The bustling international airport was a symphony of noise, boarding announcements, the hum of conversations, and the occasional wail of a tired child. Clara, an investigative journalist, was making her way through the crowd, her carry-on slung over one shoulder. She was exhausted after a long assignment abroad and couldn't wait to get home. But as she passed the baggage claim area, something caught her attention. Amid the cacophony, she heard it. A faint, muffled cry. It wasn't the loud, demanding cry of a child throwing a tantrum. It was softer, more desperate, like the sound of someone trying to be heard but unable to scream. Clara stopped in her tracks, her journalist instincts kicking in. She scanned the area, her eyes darting from face to face, but no one else seemed to notice the sound. The cry came again, and this time Clara followed it. It led her to the baggage carousel, where suitcases and bags of all shapes and sizes circled endlessly. Her heart pounded as she realized the sound was coming from one of the bags, a large, nondescript black suitcase. Without thinking, she grabbed it off the carousel and set it on the ground. Her hands trembled as she unzipped it, her mind racing with possibilities. When she opened the suitcase, her breath caught in her throat. Inside, curled up in a fetal position, was a small boy. He couldn't have been more than 5 years old. His clothes were wrinkled, and his face was streaked with tears. Around his neck hung a flight tag, and clutched in his tiny hand was a crumpled piece of paper with a child's drawing on it. "Hey, it's okay," Clara whispered, her voice shaking as she reached out to him. The boy flinched at first, but then allowed her to help him out of the suitcase. He was trembling, his wide eyes darting around as if he expected someone to snatch him away at any moment. Clara's mind raced. Who would do something like this? Where were his parents? She looked around, but no one seemed to be paying attention. The other passengers were too absorbed in their own lives, grabbing their luggage and hurrying off to their gates. She knelt down to the boy's level. "What's your name?" she asked gently. The boy hesitated, then whispered, "Lucas." "Okay, Lucas, my name is Clara. I'm going to help you, okay?" She tried to sound reassuring, but her heart was pounding. She knew she should call security, but something about the boy's frightened expression made her hesitate. What if whoever did this was still nearby? What if they were watching? Clara quickly scanned the area again, her journalist instincts on high alert. She noticed a security guard standing near the exit and waved him over. "Excuse me, I need help," she called out. The guard approached, his expression shifting from boredom to concern as he saw the boy. "What's going on here?" he asked. "I found him in this suitcase," Clara explained, her voice steady despite the chaos in her mind. "He's scared, and I don't know who put him here." The guard's eyes widened, and he immediately radioed for backup. Within minutes, the area was swarming with airport security and police officers. Lucas was taken to a nearby office, where a kind-looking woman offered him a blanket and a cup of water. Clara stayed by his side, her protective instincts kicking in. As the police began their investigation, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something much bigger was going on. The flight tag around Lucas's neck had no name or destination, just a barcode. The crumpled drawing in his hand was of a house with a tree and a smiling sun. Innocent enough, but it felt like a clue. The police reviewed the security footage, and what they found sent chills down Clara's spine. The suitcase had been placed on the carousel by a figure in a hooded sweatshirt, their face obscured. The person had lingered for a moment, then disappeared into the crowd without boarding any flights. "This doesn't make sense," Clara muttered to herself. "Why would someone leave a child in a suitcase and just walk away?" The police had no answers. There were no reports of a missing child matching Lucas's description, and no one had come forward to claim him. As the hours passed, it became clear that Lucas was alone, except for Clara. She knew she should step back and let the authorities handle the situation. But as she looked at Lucas, who was now dozing off in the chair beside her, she felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was personal. The next morning, Clara sat at her kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling in front of her. Lucas was asleep on her couch, wrapped in a blanket she had bought for him on the way home from the airport. She had convinced the police to let her take him for the night, promising to bring him back the next day for further questioning. They had reluctantly agreed, seeing no other options. Clara's mind was racing. She had spent the night researching missing children, trafficking rings, and any recent incidents at the airport. But nothing matched Lucas's situation. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. She picked up the crumpled drawing Lucas had been holding. The house, the tree, the smiling sun. It was a typical child's drawing, but something about it nagged at her. She turned it over and noticed faint scribbles on the back, almost like someone had tried to write something and then erased it. Grabbing a pencil, she lightly shaded over the scribbles, revealing a series of numbers. 4-15-22-2. It could be a date, April 15th, 2022. But what did it mean? Clara's heart raced. Was this a clue or just a coincidence? She decided to start with the flight tag. The barcode hadn't yielded any useful information, but the tag itself was from a budget airline that operated mostly domestic flights. Clara called the airline's customer service, posing as a concerned relative, but they refused to give her any information without a ticket number. Frustrated, she turned her attention to the security footage. The police had been tight-lipped about what they had found. But Clara had a contact in the department, an old friend named Mark who owed her a favor. She called him, and after some convincing, he agreed to send her a copy of the footage. When the video arrived, Clara watched it over and over, pausing on every frame. The hooded figure was tall and lean, their movements deliberate. They had placed the suitcase on the carousel and then walked away without looking back. Clara noticed something else, a small tattoo on the person's wrist, barely visible when they reached out to adjust the suitcase. It looked like a bird in flight. She spent hours researching tattoo symbols, eventually finding a match, a stylized swallow, often associated with freedom or travel. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Clara's next step was to visit the airport again. She wanted to retrace the hooded figure's steps, hoping to find something the police had missed. As she walked through the terminal, she noticed a small chapel near the baggage claim area. It was a quiet, out-of-the-way spot, and something about it felt significant. Inside, she found a priest tidying up after a service. Clara introduced herself and explained that she was investigating a strange incident at the airport. The priest listened intently, then nodded. "I remember seeing someone in a hooded sweatshirt yesterday," he said. "They came in here, sat for a few minutes, and then left. I thought it was odd because they didn't pray or light a candle, they just sat." Clara's pulse quickened. "Did you see their face?" The priest shook his head. "No, they kept their hood up. But I did notice they had a tattoo on their wrist. A bird, I think." Clara thanked the priest and left, her mind racing. The hooded figure had come to the chapel. Why? Was it a place of significance or just a random stop? She needed more information. Her next lead came from an unexpected source, Lucas himself. That evening, as she was tucking him into bed, he looked up at her with wide eyes and said, "I want to go home." Clara's heart ached. "I know, sweetheart. We're trying to find your home. Can you tell me anything about it? Where do you live?" Lucas hesitated, then pointed to the drawing on the nightstand. "There," he said simply. Clara picked up the drawing, studying it again. The house, the tree, the sun, and the numbers on the back. 4-15-22. She had been so focused on the numbers as a date that she hadn't considered they might be an address. She grabbed her laptop and typed in 41522, along with the name of the city. To her surprise, it brought up a result. A small, abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The address was 41522 Elm Street. Clara's heart raced. This had to be it. She quickly packed a bag, making sure to bring her phone, a flashlight, and a can of pepper spray. She didn't know what she would find at the house, but she wasn't taking any chances. The drive to 41522 Elm Street took about an hour. The house was exactly as Clara had imagined, a rundown two-story building with peeling paint and overgrown weeds. It looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. Clara parked her car a block away and approached the house on foot, her flashlight in hand. The front door was locked, but a window on the side was slightly ajar. She pushed it open and climbed inside, her heart pounding. The interior was dark and musty, with furniture covered in sheets and dust covering every surface. Clara moved cautiously, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she knew she would recognize it when she saw it. In the living room, she found a stack of papers on a coffee table. They were flight itineraries, all for different names but with the same destination, a small island in the Caribbean. Clara's stomach turned. This had to be part of a trafficking operation. She was about to call Mark when she heard a noise upstairs, a faint creak, like someone stepping on a loose floorboard. Clara froze, her flashlight beam darting toward the staircase. She knew she should leave, but her curiosity got the better of her. She crept up the stairs, her footsteps silent on the worn carpet. At the top of the stairs, she found a hallway with 3 doors. The first 2 were empty, but the third was locked. Clara jiggled the handle, but it wouldn't budge. She was about to give up when she heard a voice from inside, a child's voice. "Hello?" it called out, timid and scared. Clara's heart leapt. "It's okay," she said softly. "I'm here to help. Can you tell me your name?" "Emily," the voice replied. Clara's mind raced. Emily, another child. This was bigger than she had thought. She needed to get the door open, but she didn't have any tools. Then she remembered the pepper spray in her bag. She used it to break the lock and the door swung open. Inside, she found a small girl, no older than 6, sitting on a mattress on the floor. The room was bare except for a few toys and a bucket in the corner. Emily looked up at Clara with wide, frightened eyes. "It's okay," Clara said again, kneeling down to the girl's level. "I'm going to get you out of here." As she helped Emily to her feet, Clara heard a noise behind her. She turned just in time to see a figure in a hooded sweatshirt standing in the doorway. The person stepped into the light, pulling back their hood to reveal a woman's face. She looked tired and worn, but her eyes were sharp. "You shouldn't have come here," the woman said, her voice low and dangerous. Clara stood her ground, shielding Emily with her body. "Who are you? What are you doing with these children?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a knife. Clara's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. She had faced dangerous situations before, and she wasn't about to let this woman hurt Emily, or herself. "Put the knife down," Clara said firmly. "It's over." The woman hesitated, her eyes flicking to Emily and then back to Clara. For a moment it seemed like she might attack, but then, to Clara's surprise, she dropped the knife and sank to her knees. "I didn't want to do this," the woman said, her voice breaking. "They made me. They said they'd hurt my family if I didn't cooperate." Clara's mind raced. Who? Who made you do this?" The woman shook her head. "I can't say. They'll kill me." Clara knew she wasn't going to get any more answers. Not here, at least. She quickly called Mark and explained the situation. Within minutes, the police were on their way. As they waited, Clara sat with Emily and the woman who introduced herself as Maria. She explained that she had been coerced into working for a trafficking ring, helping them transport children to the island. She didn't know who was behind it, only that they were powerful and dangerous. When the police arrived, they took Maria into custody and brought Emily to safety. Clara gave her statement, but she knew this was far from over. The trafficking ring was still out there, and she was determined to bring them down. Over the next few weeks, Clara worked closely with the police to uncover the truth about the trafficking ring. Maria's cooperation led them to several key players, and eventually the entire operation was dismantled. The children who had been taken were reunited with their families, and those responsible were brought to justice. As for Lucas, he was placed in foster care while the authorities searched for his family. Clara visited him often, bringing him toys and books and helping him adjust to his new life. She had grown attached to him, and she couldn't bear the thought of him being alone. One day, as she was leaving the foster home, Clara received a call from Mark. "We found Lucas's family," he said. "They've been looking for him for months." Clara's heart leapt. "Where are they?" "They're on their way to the station now. Do you want to be there when they reunite?" Clara didn't hesitate. Of course. At the police station, Clara watched as Lucas was reunited with his parents. They hugged him tightly, tears streaming down their faces. Clara felt a lump in her throat as she watched the scene unfold. She was happy for Lucas, but she couldn't help feeling a pang of sadness. She had grown to love him, and now she had to let him go. As she turned to leave, Lucas's mother approached her. "Thank you," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for bringing our son back to us." Clara smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm just glad he's safe." As she walked out of the station, Clara felt a sense of closure. The case was over and Lucas was home where he belonged. But she knew her work wasn't done. There were still children out there who needed help, and she was determined to keep fighting for them. For Clara, this wasn't just a story anymore, it was a calling, and she was ready to answer it. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and drop a comment below letting us know where you're listening from. It helps this channel grow more than you know. Have a nice day.